It's a pervasive resource, basically, so it's more or less all over the place, but it varies quite a bit in terms of accessibility, in terms of storage volumes and so on. So knowing those factors become critical once you want to develop it. And also some areas, basically the groundwater is too deep or it's too salty. So then you can rule out that resource in those areas. So even though there might be water there, it's not really relevant.
But there's a lot of it, right? It's not used all that much in Africa.
Yeah, and there's some misunderstanding or misperception about groundwater resources in Africa. So the message that has been sent out lately is that we have huge storages of groundwater in Africa, and that is correct. But what is not said in that message also is that maybe it's not necessarily accessible, as I said, right? And it might not be where we want it to be. And maybe the places where we really want it to be, we don't have it enough, you know. There are places where you have what they call hard rock aquifers, which are shallow storages, very low productivity, and that's basically where most of the populations are situated in Africa. So those are the areas that would be more vulnerable from a groundwater perspective, either from over-abstraction or from longer-term droughts, because in Africa basically all the rural populations are dependent on groundwater. So those are the vulnerable areas.
And one would normally think, well, the reason that the groundwater perhaps isn't used to its maximum advantage is poverty, that they've no way of accessing this water. But you're saying it's more complex than that.
No, that has a lot to do with it. Basically groundwater historically has served as a water resource for water supply, mainly in the rural areas, but also in the urban areas. So like 70% of the population in Africa depends on groundwater. So it's not like it's not being used. But you can say with more development, more human growth and so on, there will be more demand for water, and so groundwater necessarily and obviously will come in as a resource to be further developed. And that's why we need to know more about it and do the mapping, and coming back to your original question, right? And so we need to know the variability across the regions and where the needs are.
So how do you go about that? How do you measure groundwater?
Well, you can start by what's already out there. As you said, there are already maps, so that would be a starting point, and that would give you a broad understanding. Then if you go to the local level and you want to know exactly what's going on in a certain area, you would have to get more detailed information. Maybe what's already there, if you go to the local geological surveys or universities or whatever, they might have that more detailed knowledge, but maybe it's not there, and that's often the case. Then you would have to go and do maybe on-site investigations to better understand the resource.
So that sounds like a huge undertaking, continent-wide.
Yes, it could be. Basically answering to that is that we need a lot of more capacity within groundwater and groundwater investigations, groundwater studies and research and so on in Africa to be able to live up to that challenge.